Welcome to CityWise. I'm your host, Tiana Stevens. CityWise is produced by the City of Rochester to shine a spotlight on city living at its best. Well, he's using the reach of social media to interact with thousands of people a day to teach American Sign Language in a unique way. Chad Crone is the man known to his followers on Snapchat and Instagram as Meow Chicken Fish, and his story is as interesting as his username. Thanks for coming on today, Chad.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with the obvious, Meow Chicken Fish. Why is that your username?
When I first started on Snapchat, I didn't want anyone to know who I was. So I picked a username that was not related to me at all. And the reason I kept with it is because it's easy to spell as opposed to my last name, which is Crone. So that's a barrier to entry to my Snapchat channel.
Okay. How did you learn sign language?
I learned sign language. My mom is deaf. My dad's a sign language interpreter.
Okay.
And so my dad's brother, he's deaf too. So that's how he became into the world of sign language. And so from that is how I learned sign language. And my first word was the word ball. And so I learned sign language before English.
Okay.
And so I fell in love ever since.
How did you get the idea to share this on Snapchat and be a Snapchat storyteller teaching sign language?
I feel like the worlds between hearing and deaf are separate. And I've always wanted a world where people would sign. And to really connect the two, you have to teach a lot of people sign language. To really create change, you have to educate. And so I found that Snapchat's a great way to educate a lot of people on a platform that deletes my content.
So how exactly do you teach people sign language using Snapchat?
Through a variety of different ways, because on Snapchat you always have to try to keep the attention of the user because of short attention spans. Therefore, I've figured out different ways, either through sign language art, where I'll take a picture of my hands and then behind it I'll draw the art. Like, for example, for like the sign for art is art, and so behind it will be like this visible like art piece. Other ways is like teaching fingerspelling and doing like quizzes, little fun quiz activities, so people feel like they're involved, and also people will sign to me and I'll feature that on my story just to deeper the engagement and the connection between myself and my audience. And
you have followers all over the world, is that right?
That is correct. I have people from Australia, Germany, Italy, Mexico, Canada, just broad, because I don't really select who follows me, just people that do.
So anyone can follow you?
Anyone.
Okay.
And there's over 30 different sign languages in the world.
Okay.
But I'm trying to teach everyone American Sign Language, because if they learn one, then they can learn the other ones. The reason they're learning from me is because there's a struggle that a lot of people don't have access to sign language classes. So my Snapchat is breaking the barrier between them having access to a class.
Why Snapchat as opposed to some of the other social media platforms?
So, there's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They're all algorithm based. And so when you post something, it doesn't really go to your audience.
Okay.
It only goes to about like 1% of your audience. And therefore on Snapchat, it goes right to the top.
Okay.
And that's pretty powerful because, I want my audience to see my content.
So for those of us or others that don't know what Snapchat is, how do you describe Snapchat to someone?
Snapchat is a platform that deletes your content in 24 hours. So any picture or video that I post, it will be deleted in 24 hours. The reason I picked Snapchat over anything else is the idea of FOMO. FOMO stands for fear of missing out.
Oh.
And the fact that it deletes, people want to watch, because if they don't watch, they miss out. And therefore, Snapchat is essential to teach sign language. Also, Snapchat is kind of like a classroom. You go to class, if you don't take notes, you're going to fail. So that's the same thing for Snapchat. If you don't watch, you're going to miss out. And so, yeah.
So what is the reaction that you get from people that follow you? What do they say?
It's pretty positive. I get a lot from both hearing and deaf people.
Okay.
The comments are, thank you for doing this. I couldn't find classes and I found you, so that's great. I had someone tell me that they're going to be an interpreter because of what I'm doing.
Okay.
it's just been very positive, which I didn't think that was going to be positive.
Okay.
Yeah, it was surprising, but I'm happy to be in the position that I am.
What do your parents think of it?
Well, they don't really understand social media.
Okay.
It's a little bit different. They don't really want to be in my stories because they're not used to having 1,000 people watching them. And so I decided to keep them out of my stories. Maybe they'll eventually get into it, but at this moment, probably not.
Okay. What sort of tools do you use to improve what you're doing on Snapchat?
So when you're snapping, the normal thing is you hold one hand and then you sign, or you speak while the timer's going. And in sign language, you use both your hands. And so I have a tripod in which I can attach my phone to, and then a Bluetooth remote, which I use my toe to access, and then I just go freely like that.
Do people get to ask you questions? Say if they're wanting to learn how to say a phrase, do they get to submit a question to you?
So my inbox is open to the public,
Okay.
so people do submit stuff, and then I either answer it to them directly, or I go right to my story, and therefore I answer everyone's question.
Okay. Why should someone that is a hearing person or doesn't have much interaction with deaf community members, why should they want to learn ASL?
That's a difficult question because you have to find what a hearing person's needs are. But I see sign language as important to deaf people as to hearing people. The reason behind that is, you ever go to like a festival, like here in Rochester, it's really loud. And I hate speaking, I hate listening. But with sign language, it's very quick, easy, and soundless communication. Also, there's some things you can do within sign language you really can't do while speaking. I can sign to my dad and be like, "You want to leave?" And then so like no one knows that we want to leave, but the message is conveyed.
Okay. Who are some of your followers on Snapchat?
They range from the ages of 8 to someone who is 75. And that's remarkable because someone that old is able to change and actually download a social media platform and just teach themselves how to work with Snapchat, and then also what I'm doing.
Okay.
And that's just remarkable. Just the age range and the people within.
Yeah.
There's parents that are hopping on Snapchat because they have a deaf child, or they're on Snapchat because they have a hearing baby that is crying and they want to communicate with the baby.
Okay.
Instead of crying, the baby will either sign more or less. It's a way to teach people early so they have something for their lifetime.
Right. Finally, where do you see yourself next year in 5 years?
I dislike this question because you can't really determine what happens down the line. Things change daily, but I do know what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Okay.
And that's teaching American Sign Language for free on Snapchat.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your work. If you'd like to keep up with Chad's efforts to teach the world ASL, be sure to follow him on Snapchat at meowchickenfish. You can also email him with any questions at meowchickenfish@gmail.com.